start with the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Dear students of class first year, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome you, dear students in Pakistan International Taif Virtual Learning System. Hopes you all are fine, well, and you are definitely working hard with your studies. Dear students, today we have English lecture number 18 and grade for first year, and we are going to start our unit 4 today as we have completed the unit 3 in the last lecture. So this is unit 4, acquiring values. As you are well aware that every unit contains three reading selections. So today we have a reading selection 4.1, and the name of the reading selection 4.1 is the scholarship jacket. And here is your teacher, Sarfraz Nadeem. So dear students, please open page number 86. We have the unit 4 and reading selection 4.1. Before starting the lesson, we have a pre-reading, dear students. And in pre-reading, let's see what is here in pre-reading about. This story is a 14-year-old poor girl, Martha, who is expecting to win the scholarship jacket for obtaining straight A's for 8 years in a row at school. However, just before the award ceremony, a price also was fixed to the jacket in order to favor the number 2 girl who came from a rich family. She asks her granddad to pay for it, but he says that if she paid for the jacket, it won't mean winning it. He tells the principal what her granddad said. Can you guess what happened towards the end? Did Martha win her jacket or lost it to the other girl? So this is pre-reading, dear students. The full story is here. Let's start. Yes, dear students, you can see over here the page preview. We have page number 86, the scholarship jacket. Let's start. The small Texas school that I attended carried out a tradition every year during the 8th grade graduation, a beautiful gold and green jacket. The school colors was awarded to the class valedictorian. The student who had maintained the highest grades for 8 years. The scholarship jacket had a big gold on the left front side, and the winner's name was written in gold letters on the pocket. Now, in this paragraph, dear students, he's telling that this is a small Texas school, and she carried out a tradition that a student who will continuously will take A grades in all 8 years, she will be awarded with a scholarship jacket. And the what is the scholarship jacket had a big gold on the left front side, and the winner's name also written with the gold letters on the pocket. My oldest sister Rosie had won this jacket a few years back, and I fully expected to win also. I was 14, and in the 8th grade, I had been a stra- I had been a straight A student since the first grade. And the last year, I had looked forward to owning that jacket. My father was a farm laborer who couldn't earn enough money to feed 8 children. So when I was 6, I was given to my grandparents to be raised. When couldn't we couldn't participate in sports at school because there were registration fees, uniform costs, and trips out of town. So even though we were quite agile and athletic, there would never be a sports school jacket for us. This one, the scholarship jacket, was our only chance. Dear students, in this paragraph, the Martha is telling that my oldest sister Rosie also won that jacket few years back, and she was fully expecting to win also because she was 14 years old in grade 8, and she had been a straight A student since the first grade. I mean, she got the grade A grades from class 1 to 8. and she was also looking forward for that jacket. And she was saying that their father was a laborer, farm laborer, and he had 8 children. So it was quite difficult for a laborer to afford the expenses of the 8 children. So when she was 6, she was given to her grandparents for raising. And she said that we couldn't participate in sports at school because it was costly, because registration fees, uniform costs, and trips also. So even she's saying that we were quite sport people, like athletic or agile, but it was difficult. They were quite young and, in other words, acrobatic, light-footed, nimble, but it was difficult for them to afford the expenses or the fees or other things. So only one chance was there about their scholarship. Paragraph number 3, dear students. In my close to graduation, spring fever struck, and no one paid any attention in class. Instead, we stared out the windows and eat at each other, wanting to speed up the last few weeks of school. One day, I absent-mindedly wandered from my history class to the gym. Another hour of sweating in basketball and displaying my toothpick legs was coming up. Then I remembered my PE physical exercise shorts were still in a bag under my desk. Where I would forgotten them, I had to walk all the way back to get them. Coach Mrs. Thompson was a real beer if anyone wasn't braced for a PE. She had said that I was a good forward, and once she even tried to talk Grandma into letting me join the team. Grandma, of course, said no. In this paragraph, dear students, she said that one day she just left their PE shorts, physical exercise shorts, in bag. So she just came without PE shorts. So she went over there to take these PE physical exercise shorts. And she was saying that we were very good in sports because we were quite fast in running and we were quite energetic. But it was difficult for them to afford. Even my told to my grandma, but she refused also. I was almost back to my classroom's door when I heard angry voices and arguing. I stopped. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I just hesitated, not knowing what to do. I needed those shorts and I was going to be late. But I didn't want to interrupt any argument between my teachers. I recognized the voices: Mr. Shamit, my history teacher, and Mr. Boone, my math teacher. They seemed to be arguing about me. I couldn't believe it. I still remember the shock that rooted me flat against the wall as if I were trying to blend in with the graffiti written there. Now, dear students, in this paragraph, Martha is telling that when I was almost back at my classroom door, she heard few angry voices and arguing, and two teachers were arguing with each other, and the topic was same about the Martha. One was Mr. Shamit and Mr. Boone. Both were there. Mr. Shamit was a history teacher and Boone was a math teacher. And she was not actually listening their voice, but when she got her name, then she stopped over there and there. And she was not trying to interrupt, but she listened everything. I refuse to do it. I don't care who her father is. Her grades don't even begin to compare to Martha. I won't lie or falsify records. Martha has a straight A plus average, and you know it. That was Mr. Sherman, and he sounded very angry. Mr. Boone's voice sounded calm and quiet. Now, here in this paragraph, dear students, there's a discussion between two teachers, and Mr. Sherman, who is a geography history teacher, he was trying to tell to Mr. Boone's math teacher that I, I don't care her father is what, but the grades are not comparing to the Martha's because Martha's totally has a straight A plus average. and you know it. And he was very angry and very sounded on that time. Look, John's father is not only on the board, he owns the only store in town. We could say it was a close tie. And now here Mr. Boone is trying, look, John's father means the student she was in next to get the scholarship jacket was John's. So the teacher was saying John's father is not only on the board, means he was a member of the board as well, but he said that he owns the only store in town, means whatever the only store is their town, it's about John's father. The pounding in my ears drowned out the rest of the words. Only a word here and there filtered through. Martha is Mexican, resign, want to do it. Mr. Shamit came rushing out and luckily for me went down the opposite way towards the auditorium, so he didn't see me. Shaking, I waited a few minutes and then went in and grabbed my bag and fled from the room. Mr. Boone looked up when I came in but didn't say anything. To this day, I don't remember if I got in trouble in PE for being late or how I made it through the rest of the afternoon. I went home very sad and cried into my pillow that night so that grandmother wouldn't hear me. I seemed a cruel coincidence that I had overheard that conversation. Now, here, dear students, she just listened few words that the Martha is Mexican and the word resign as well. But after a few minutes, Mr. Shamit just came rushing out, and luckily he didn't see to Martha, and he went to the auditorium side, and she got the PE suit, and then also Mr. Boone came also, and Mr. Boone looked up when I came, means she came in, but he didn't say anything. And it was very, not a good day for him. And a chance of PE, for being late, she got this news. And she was saying that she cried a lot into pillow because, so that the grandmother wouldn't hear her. So it was a cruel coincidence for Martha. The next day, when the principal called me into his office, I knew what it would be about. He looked uncomfortable and unhappy. I decided I wasn't going to make it any easier for him. So I looked him straight in the eye, and he looked away and fidgeted with the papers on his desk. Now, dear students, next day, the principal called to Martha. What he said, Martha, he said, there's been a change in policy this year regarding the scholarship jacket. As you know, it has always been free. He cleared his throat and continued. This year, the board decided to charge $15, which still won't cover the complete cost of the jacket. I stared at him in shock, and a small sound of dismay escaped my throat. I hadn't expected this. He still avoided looking in my eyes. So if you are unable to pay the $15 for the jacket, it will be given to the next one in line. Standing with all the dignity I could muster, I said, I'll speak to my grandfather about it, sir, and let you know tomorrow. I cried on the walk home from the bus stop, and that road was a quarter of a mile from the highway. So by the time I got home, my eyes were red and puffy. Now, here in these few paragraphs, dear students, you know that principal told that the policy has been changed. Before, the jacket was given free of cost, but now it has price fixed, and that is $15. If you will pay, then you will be able to get it. Otherwise, it will be given to the next candidate and next student. But the principal was saying these words, but he was not watching, or he was not staring to the marathon. His eyes were down. He was still avoiding to look at the eyes of Martha. And the Martha told her, sir, okay, I will speak to my grandfather and will let you know tomorrow, inshallah. But she just came in bus, but she was crying all the way. And that's why her eyes were red and puffy. When she reached home, let's see, where's grandpa? I asked grandma. looking down at the floor so she wouldn't ask me why I've been crying. She was sewing on a quilt and didn't look up. I think he's out big working in the bean field. Now she asked from grandmother that where is grandfather, but she was not watching it, grandmother, because her eyes were red and she was also busy in sewing something. So she told him that he is working at in the bean field. I went outside and looked out the fields. There he was. I could see him walking between the rows, his body bent over the little plants. Hoe in hand, I walked slowly out to him, trying to think how I could best ask him for the money. There was a cool breeze blowing and a sweet smell of mesquite in the air, but I didn't appreciate. I kicked it a dirt clod. I wanted that jacket so much. It was more than just being a valedictorian and giving a little thank you speech for the jacket on graduation night. It represented 8 years of hard work and expectation. I knew I had to be honest with Grandpa. It was my only chance. He saw me and looked up. Now, here in this paragraph, dear students, when she came at the fields, she saw that her grandfather was busy in working with the plants, and but she was only thinking about the scholarship jacket. She was thinking that just only chance to be to just being a valedictorian and giving a little thank you speech. She was thinking about that thank you speech which every student was giving after getting the scholarship jacket. He waited for me to speak. I cleared my throat nervously and clasped my hands behind my back so he wouldn't see them shaking. Grandpa, I have a big favor to ask you, I said in Spanish, the only language he knew. He still waited silently. I tried again. Grandpa, this year the principal said the scholarship jacket is not going to be free. Now, these were the words. It's going to cost $15 and I have to take the money in tomorrow. Otherwise, it will be given to someone else. The last words came out in an eager rush. Grandpa straightened up tiredly and leaned his chin on the hoe. Now, dear students, in this, I wanted to tell you in this paragraph that when she just came, her hands were shaking. So he put her hands behind. And when she said that I wanted a big favor, and she told to her granddad in a Spanish language because he was only able to understand that language. And she told to grandfather that I need $15 for the scholarship jacket, otherwise it will be given to another one. He looked out over the field that was filled with the tiny green bean plants. I waited desperately, hoping he would say I could have the money. He turned to me and asked quietly, what does a scholarship jacket mean? Now, dear students, when the grandfather came, she was thinking it might he will give me money, but he asked a question that what does a scholarship jacket mean? I answered quickly, maybe there was a chance. It means you have earned it by having the highest grades for 8 years, and that's why they are giving it to you. Too late, I realized the significance of my words. Grandpa knew that I understood it was not a matter of money. I wasn't that. He went back to hoeing the weeds that sprang up between the delicate little bean plants. It was a time consuming job. Sometimes the small shoots were right next to each other. Finally, he spoke again. Now, dear students, when grandfather asked from the Martha, what does a scholarship jacket mean? She answered quickly that maybe there was a chance. And he said, it means you have earned it by having the highest grades for 8 years, and that's why they are giving it to you. But she soon realized that what is the significance of her words. And grandpa knew that I understood it was not a matter of money. So let's see. Then if you pay for it, Martha. It's not a scholarship jacket, is it? Tell your principal I will not pay the $15. Now, the grandfather told to Martha that Martha, if you will pay for this jacket, so will you call as a scholarship jacket and tell your principal that you will not pay the $15? I walked back to the house and looked myself in the bathroom for a long time. I was very angry with grandfather, even though I knew he was right, and I was angry with the board. Whoever they were, why did they have to change the rules just when it was my turn to win the jacket? Now she's saying that she came and she went to the bathroom for a long time, and she was angry with grandfather. But even she was knew that her grandfather was right, and she was angry to the board as well that why they just started the rules and changed the rules when there is a turn of her. It was a very sad and withdrawn girl who dragged it into the principal's office the next day. This time he did look me in the eyes. What did your grandfather say? Next day, when she went to the office, principal asked this question. I sat very straight in my chair. He said to tell you he won't pay the $15. The principal muttered something I couldn't understand under his breath and walked over to the window. He stood looking out something outside. He looked bigger than usual when he stood up. He was a tall, gaunt man with great hair, and I watched the back of his head while I waited for him to speak. Why? He finally said. Your grandfather has the money. Doesn't he own a small bean farm? Now, dear student, when the Martha told to the principal that my grandfather said that I will not pay the money, he said few things and then he asked again, why? Your grandfather has the money, he said, and he has a small bean farm. I looked at him, forcing my eyes to stay dry. He said if I had to pay for it, then it wouldn't be a scholarship jacket. I said and stood up to leave. I guess you'll just have to give it to a Joan. I hadn't mean to say that. It had just slipped out. I was almost to the door when he stopped me. Martha, wait. Now, dear students, when principal said, doesn't he own a small bean farm? So I looked at him, forcing my eyes to stay dry. He said, she again said that my grandfather said if I had to pay for it, then it wouldn't be a scholarship jacket. And she said I stood up and to leave the office. Then principal said, I guess you'll just have to give it to Joan, means another student. Suddenly, the Martha said, I hadn't mean to say that, but she didn't know on that time that she slipped out. She was almost at the door when the principal stopped her. Martha said, Martha, wait. I turned and looked at him, waiting. While did he want to know? I could feel my heart pounding. Something bitter and vile tasting was coming up in my mouth. I was afraid I was going to be sick. I didn't need any sympathy speech. He sighed loudly and went back to his big desk. He looked at me, biting his lip as if thinking, okay, well, make an exception in your case. I'll tell the board you'll get your jacket. Now, the principal said that, okay, and we are going to make an exception in this case, and I'll tell the board that it will be your jacket. I could hardly believe it. I spoke in a trembling rush. Oh, thank you, sir. Suddenly I felt great. I didn't know about adrenaline in those days, adrenaline in those days, but I knew something was pumping through me, making me feel as tall as the sky. I wanted to yell, jump, run, smile, do something. I ran out so I could cry in the hall where there was no one to see me. At the end of the day, Mr. Schmidt winked at me and said, I hear you're getting a scholarship jacket this year. His face looked as happy and innocent as a baby's, but I knew better. Without answering, I gave him a quick hug and ran to the bus. Cried on the walk home again, but this time because I was so happy, I couldn't wait to tell Grandpa and ran straight to the field. I joined him in the row where he was working, and without saying anything, I crouched down and started pulling up the weeds in my hands. Grandpa worked alongside me for a few minutes, but he didn't ask what had happened. After I had a little pile of weeds between the rows, I stood up and faced him. The principal said he's making an exception for me, Grandpa, and I'm getting the jacket after all. That's after I told him what you said. Grandpa didn't say anything. He just gave me a pat on the shoulder and smiled. He pulled out a crumpled and red handkerchief that he always carried in his back pocket and wiped the sweat of his forehead. Better go see if your grandmother needs any help with supper. I gave him a big grin. I skipped and ran back to the house, whistling some silly tune. Now, dear students, in the last paragraph, the principal said that we are going to make an exception, and in your case, and he will tell the board you'll get your scores. Then he will become happy, and also the Mr. Shemit, his teacher also winked at him, her, and said, "And I hear you are getting a scholarship jacket this year." So she was very happy, and definitely because she was getting the fruit of his hard work, and she was much more than the words. She was happy, and she came in the home and went to the state fields and tell his grandfather that she is getting scholarship, and he just pat on her shoulder and smiled, and also said to now go to help the grandmother for the night dinner. So like this, she was happy. So this is all about, dear students, about the lesson, the scholarship jacket. The mean of this lesson is that, dear students, you have to work hard. Okay, and acquiring values means if you are powerful, if you are working hard, definitely you will get your aim of life, goal of life. It's not away from you. Dear students, here we have about the author. Marta Salin is the author of many short stories. Her short story, The Scholarship Jacket, was first published in Quenitz Chicago's A Short Story Anthology. Her work has also appeared in the Los Angeles Herald Examiner and California Living Magazine. So she's the writer of the lesson is same the girl, Marta, and she is also calling Martha. So we have few vocabulary words over here, dear students, on page number, and then we have 92 and 93. On 93, we have study questions, dear students. Here, what tradition was followed by the small Texas school which Martha attended? So this is about the school. I think it's very easy to that the tradition followed by the small Texas school was that a beautiful gold and green jacket was awarded to the student who had maintained highest grades for the 8 years. So few questions are given over here, dear students. If you have any problem regarding the questions or answers, you can ask me on Zoom, or you can write answers by yourself as well. Dear students, the next topic we have about the adverbs. You know very well the adverb is a word that is used to change, modify, or qualify an adjective, a verb, and an adverb. And there are kinds of adverbs. Here you can see the basic kinds of adverbs, and that is these kinds are in your book as well. You can see on page number 94, 95 adverbs of manner. So first adverb of manner tells us the manner or way in which something happens. They answer the question how, and adverbs of manner mainly modify verbs. He speaks slowly. Now question, how does he speak? He speaks slowly. So slowly is an adverb and the adverb of manner. Second, they helped us cheerfully. How did they help us? Cheerfully. James Bond drives his cars fast. How does James Bond drive his cars? fast. So like this. Second, we have a kind adverb of place. Dear students, adverbs of place tell us the place where something happens. They answer the question where. Adverbs of place mainly modify verbs. Please sit here. Where should I sit? Here. They looked everywhere. Where did they look? Everywhere. Two cars were parked outside. Where were two cars parked? Outside. So outside, everywhere, here, these are the adverbs, adverbs of place. Now we have adverbs of time. Adverbs of time tell us something about the time that something happens. Adverbs of time mainly modifies verbs. They can answer the questions when. Now, first was adverb of manner. It was telling us about how, and here in adverb of place, where, and in adverb of time, when. These are the such words which will answer your questions with when. He came yesterday. He came yesterday means when did he come? Yesterday. Next, I want it now. When do I want it? Now. So these are the adverbs of time over here. Next, we have adverbs of certainty. Adverbs of certainty express how certain we feel about an action or event. Adverbs of certainty go before the main verb unless the main verb is to be, in which case the adverb of certainty goes after. Examples: he definitely left the house this morning. He surely won't forget. He is probably in the park. He is certainly a smart man. So these are the, dear students, adverbs of certainty. Next, we have, dear students, adverbs of degree. Adverbs of degree tell us about the intensity of something. Adverbs of degree are usually placed before the adjective, adverb, or verb that they modify, although there are some exceptions. The words too, enough, very, and extremely are examples of adverbs of degree. For example, dear students, is your coffee hot enough? This box isn't big enough. He didn't work hard enough, and I got here early enough. These are the examples of adverbs of degree. Now we have interrogative adverbs. The interrogative adverbs of why, where, how, and when are placed at the beginning of a question. These questions can be answered with a sentence or a prepositional phrase. After an interrogative adverb in a question, you must invert the subject and verb so that the verb comes first. Example is here. Why are you so late? There was a lot of traffic. Where is my passport? How are you? When does the train arrive? So why, where, how, when, these are the interrogative adverbs. Now, interrogative adverbs as we where answer why, where, how, and when are placed. We have again, I'm going to repeat over interrogative adverbs means they are why, where, how, when are placed at the beginning of a question. Same questions, why are you late, like this. So we read. Next, dear students, we have relative adverbs. The relative adverbs are where, when, and why. A relative adverb is an adverb that hates an adjective clause. Let's look at the three relative adverbs. Each one has its own role. Where introduce an adjective clause describing a place. I know the town where you live. Now, dear students, here you can see in this sentence, I know the town where you live. Here, this word where is going to connect between these two part of the sentence, like you live and I know the town. And this is also adjective clause as well. You know, an adjective clause describing a place, like I know the town where you live. So where you live is an adjective clause. When introduces an adjective clause describing a time, they are talking about an era when a promise was a promise. Why introduces an adjective clause describing a reason. It is the reason why I left. So now we have adverbs of attitude. In adverse attitude, the adverbs of attitude express the speaker's attitude towards an action. They are generally used for refer to whole sentence and not to small phrases or words. Example, frankly, I feel tired, so I don't want to come with you. Frankly. Next is doctors healed the wound of the patient. Fortunate. Next, third, he simply didn't want to make it happen. Now, these frankly, fortunately, simply, these are the examples of adverbs of attitude. Next, we were surprisingly glad to see her in the wedding ceremony. So, are the side effects of the pillowware. So, dear students, hopefully, so these are the examples of adverbs, and there is a homework, dear students. Hope so you understood about the adverb. And we learned adverbs, those just they are in your book. So just what is the homework? Write two sentences of each kind, nothing more. Two sentences of each kind, right? Like adverb of place, adverb of time, adverb of frequency, degree, adverb of so you have to write two sentences of each and send it to me uh, on WhatsApp group, and definitely I will check it and let you know. If still you have any query, any problem, you can ask me on Zoom meeting. And this is all about today's lecture, dear students, and take care of yourself. And this is all about today's lecture, and Allah Hafiz and goodbye.